Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to our May Luncheon. My name is Julia Atwood, and I'm honored to serve as the Kent Chamber President. I'm filling in completely for Zenobia today, so we'll see how this goes for me. Zenobia's been called away on some family emergency, so we're going to miss her today. I'm the COO and partner at Shannon and Associates CPAs. I also serve as Vice President of Shannon and Friends Foundation, providing shoes and coats to kids within the Kent School District. We've been a proud member of the Kent Chamber since 1967, and this year our firm is celebrating our 71st year being a part of the Kent community. A few housekeeping items today. This copyrighted webinar is presented by the Kent Chamber of Commerce and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of the Chamber. This meeting is also being recorded and hosted live on Facebook by our media sponsor, South King Media, also known as I Love Kent. For all things Kent, as well as the community updates, you can follow I Love Kent on Facebook. And if you're a Kent Chamber member, they do offer some great free advertising packages. You can expect an email after this presentation. Now we want to thank our investors. We have that slide available. So we'd like to give a huge thank you to our Chamber investors. As you can see on your screen, we have multiple investors who support our organization above and beyond their membership dues. Their support allows us to provide more programs to help our business community become stronger. Thank you all very much. This year, our luncheon sponsor is Abyssinia Hair and Beauty Clinic of Kent. And each month, Abyssinia Hair and Beauty brings you tips, updates, specials, and opportunities to learn more about their business. Abyssinia has an array of different kinds of face treatments, various versions of body treatments, and a broad selection of hair products. They are a Black-owned, woman and minority-owned business located in downtown Kent on First. We just had an honor of doing ribbon cutting for them last month. And today, I think we have Charlie. Do we have Charlie on the call? I think I saw you.
Yeah, hi, Julie. I'm here.
Yeah.
Thanks for the nice introduction.
Yes. Why don't you tell us about some more about Abyssinia?
Okay, so we aim to keep everyone beautiful and wonderfully made for that standout hair care and beauty experience. Minnie and her stylists are committed and they consider their work therapeutic and clinical. We treat everyone and everyone's hairstyles. So women, men, children, family. Like you mentioned, she's a woman owner and person of color, and she's in the middle of the block in between Rafiki and Wild Wheat Bakery on First. So we're approaching summer and July, so why not get pretty for the summer or to celebrate the return to normalcy by winning over COVID Day? Please book your next hair or beauty appointment on phone or online. I'll stick a link to our chamber webpage in the chat, or you can look for us on Facebook at Abyssinia WA. And then lastly, any Kent Chamber member has a perpetual 25% discount off the total spend and the main course services. So come in and get pretty and save a big bunch too. So thanks for allowing us to be the event sponsor, and look forward to the great presentation and chance to network and learn about everyone else's business. Thanks, Julia.
Thanks, Charlie, and thanks to Abyssinia, tremendous supporter of the Chamber. We really appreciate you. Now's time for our virtual networking. And so what we do now is a quick roundtable introduction. When you see your name on the screen, please unmute your mic or your phone and your camera if you are able, and give us a 1-minute introduction, sharing some things about your business, for example, who your perfect client is, or any specials you're running or things going on with your business. We'd love to hear about it. If you watch up in the upper right-hand corner, the next person's slide, their name will be there. So you're ready to go when your slide appears. So we're going to ask Rhea to get started. Here we are with BBSI.
All right, Frank Bicey. I'm with BBSI. We're proud members of Kent Chamber. Thank you. BBSI is a small business owner advocate. We help businesses with everything HR, payroll, safety risk, and staffing. And so we have lots of talent. We're looking for talent out there. We have open positions on the staffing side. And if there's ever any questions on the HR, payroll, or any of that, let us know. And then we have our third in a 3-part series event coming up later in the month on employee engagement. So make sure and check the calendar on Kent Chamber for that. Thank you so much.
So I'm Sarah with Multi-Service Center, and Robin Korak, our CEO, is also on this call. Multi-Service Center is a nonprofit serving all of South King County with housing, rental assistance, energy assistance, education, employment, and we operate the Federal Way Food Bank. We have had great community support throughout the pandemic, and we really appreciate that. Rent assistance has been a huge need, and there is more coming. So please visit our website at mschelps.org for more information. As we have it available, we'll post it.
Hi, I'm Carmen Gores with Heritage Bank. Yvonne Walker got pulled away with a client really quickly. And so here at Heritage Bank, we're really here to support our community bank, our community members in financing and access to capital. Even if you have simple questions and we're not your primary bank, we're here to be of assistance. So we look forward to seeing you really soon, and our branches are now open. That's all we have to say.
Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew Kim. I am with Edwards Jones. We're a full financial service firm. What we're really focusing on right now is helping small businesses set up either a simple IRA plan or a 401k plan who are curious as to far as their participation rates or fee structure goes. We definitely want to help people with life insurance as well. As you know, people with the state of Washington, they have a requirement now with long-term care insurance, making sure that's either state or private. If anyone has any questions about that, it's definitely something that needs to be talked about because it is coming.
Hey everybody, my name is Connor Grubb. I'm with the Umpqua Bank in Kent. We work with a wide variety of small businesses, large businesses, a ton of consumer accounts as well. We offer every product that a larger bank can do, but we offer the smaller, more personal feel of an individual branch. My ideal referral is honestly anybody who would want to have a personal relation with their bank or their banker. We are free to speak to whenever you'd like to. I'm going to open 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. So if you need anything, feel free to reach out and I'd love to help you out.
So I'm Vig. Nice to see some of you again. And I'm at the BECU location here in Kent Station. So for us, kind of same thing, similar to what a couple others have mentioned here. We are a full service in terms of financial services. Got a couple cool promotions going on at the moment. One of them would be a $100 refer a friend promotion. So if you're a BECU member yourself, which some of you might be, if you go online, I'll put the link up later. You can actually refer people for $100 for yourself and your friend. For businesses, small businesses, we do have pretty good rates right now on equipment loans and vehicle loans. We also offer pretty good rates in low-cost investment options as well. So if anything you're having trouble with, even if you don't want to do business with us, feel free to reach out just to pop that question over, and I'm happy to meet you whether in person or over the phone. So yeah, thanks for your time, everyone.
Hello, my name's Jen. I'm with First Citizens Bank. We're here in Kent. We are actually a business center where we focus on helping businesses, whether it's with their everyday banking, their merchant, and of course we also help with lending. We do leases. We're a little bit different from a traditional banking office or branch rather, whereas we are not technically open to the public. However, we are here in any channel that you may need us for. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Tina Orwell. I have the honor of representing the 33rd Legislative District in Olympia. We just got done with the 105-day session. It was mostly remote. Strong focus on supporting struggling families and businesses. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and contact me, and I will get back to you right away. Thank you.
All right, I see my name. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Perry. I work with Puget Sound Energy, and I won't steal Andy's thunder because you will hear a lot about the work that's going on at Puget Sound Energy. It's a really exciting time to be a part of the utility industry in Washington State as we undergo clean energy transformation while continuing to provide reliable, affordable power for our customers. I'll just say I'm a proud Kent native. Graduated from Kentwood High School, also went to Meridian Junior High and Pine Tree Elementary. So the Kent Chamber has a special place in my heart. My wife was on the Kent City Council in the past as well. So good to see you all.
Hi, everyone. Aaron Donaldson with Cornerstone Benefits Consulting Group. Thanks for having me here today. We specialize in providing medical benefit programs for businesses of all sizes. We have no preference on industry or group size. We can do groups as small as 2 all the way up to a lot. Our latest success story is we are a regional and national brokerage. We've got agents all over the country, and our most recent success story is a small municipality outside of Chicago, where we are going to help 40 city workers for the village of Sauk Village, which is a small community outside of Chicago, save $8,000 a month on their benefit program and provide them better benefits and going forward in 2021, 2022. So if you have any questions on how to run or set up a benefit program in your business, or you know somebody that may be looking for a second opinion on how well their benefits are working for them, that's what we specialize in. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for the day, Andy Wappler. Andy is the Vice President of Customer Operations and Communications for Puget Sound Energy. He leads the company's customer care, customer engagement, communications, community engagement, and strategic business intelligence teams. His groups are charged with coordinating outreach with customers, communities, and stakeholders, enhancing data capability and developing their customer service platform. Andy is also the chairman and the president of Puget Sound Energy Foundation, dedicated to promoting safety and emergency preparedness within PSE's service territory. Please help me welcome Andy.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Great to be here today. I particularly appreciated getting to hear the educational history and roots of my colleague, Matt Perry, at all the various Kent area schools he attended. He is a proud Kent native. He frequently drops some Kent knowledge on the rest of us at PSE, which I appreciate. I'll talk about energy and all that, but I guess just for a minute, just to say hi and to kind of get to know everybody. My first memory, when did I first hear the word Kent? It was when I was a little kid. We moved here in 1969 from Chicago, and I heard Aaron mention the Chicago area a minute ago. We lived in the Chicago area, and my dad, Harry, who you may know from doing the weather for a long time, he actually worked at Commonwealth Edison, the electric utility in the Chicago area, doing like public affairs and speaking and things. And it's really weird. You think you're not going to be like your parents, and then you do 2 jobs they do. Anyway, we moved here from 1969 from Chicago, and my brother and I, my older brother, Bill, we discovered as soon as we got to the area, this incredible show called J.P. Patches. And J.P. Patches was the first time I heard Kent because he would mention this place called the Fantastic Cake Box in Kent. And somehow I think it was like it was your birthday or maybe your class won something. You get a cake from the Fantastic Cake Box. I thought, oh, I like this Kent place. This sounds good. And then I remember coming down as a kid and getting a tour of some of the Boeing space facilities and things. And that was, of course, when all the Apollo stuff was a huge deal, the lunar rover being built in Kent. And so cool now to see the incredible presence of Blue Origin being there and that next phase of space taking part in Kent. Who would have thought 50 years ago? And then, of course, we were talking about this as few folks were getting on. I want to come back and do this speaking engagement when we're back together again, because then I will have a really great reason, is if I needed one, to drive past the Caveman and load up before I go back. I live in Redmond, and we do not have the same barbecue quality in Redmond. I'm sure we have many fine restaurants in Redmond. We do not have the Caveman. At any rate, love having a chance to talk about energy and thinking about all those days. 50 years ago, when my dad actually transitioned from a utility to energy, none of the things we are talking about today are things that people would have been talking about. And even for me, and I started at PSC in 2008, things that we're talking about today weren't even things we would have talked about then. And I was actually thinking with Representative Orwell being here, the things that the legislature was doing, say 10, 12 years ago, they were big stuff at the time. And now it's moving even farther ahead toward a new kind of economy and clean energy. So for PSC, we've been doing this for a long time in the area, 150 years. We're actually going to have our 150th anniversary. I think it's in 2023. If you go back to some of the predecessor companies in PSC, the earliest companies were companies that were on the gas side, including like Gasworks Park in Seattle. And part of the reason they call it natural gas today is back then, 150 years ago, they actually manufactured the gas on site because they didn't have pipelines to transform it a long ways. So they took things like coal and oil and made them into gas. That was 150 years ago. So these predecessor companies of PSE go a long ways back. And of course, the company as it is today was formed about 20 years ago from Puget Power, which was the electric company, where my wife actually worked in the 90s, to Washington Natural Gas, which was gas company, and they merged and became Puget Sound Energy about the year 2000. So we have 3,000 employees. They're all over the area, including about 300 in Kent. So we'll focus in a little bit on Kent and kind of tell our Kent story here for a moment. Our employees in Kent are a big part of our operations. We do a lot of things in the Kent Valley, including have a service center. And here we see a couple pictures of that service center on the top, which is really big. It's our South King Service Center, and it dispatches crews and has engineers and people in different roles that go throughout really South King County. That facility was just rebuilt a couple of years ago. It's really nice. I enjoy going there for meetings and things, and I'm really looking forward to by probably in late summer, we're going to transition folks like me who are sort of office workers back to being kind of hybrid and everything like we're all talking about. And then the picture below is actually our Kent Fleet Center, which is a brand new building. The one on top was kind of refurbished totally. The one below is a brand new building. So for us, Kent is really core. As I mentioned, 300 employees who are based out of the Kent area, more who live in the Kent area, and then several key operational facilities. That service center, the top picture, and then of course the fleet center for us, all of our company based out of Kent, and really glad to be there. I know employees are proud to be in Kent, and this was a cool activity. Speaking of the fleet that we did just maybe 8 weeks or so ago in Kent, this was a new electric truck from a company called Lordstown that maybe you've heard of, maybe not. I kind of like their name because it's Lordstown, Ohio, which had been a giant GM assembly plant that GM closed. And now this new company in Lordstown is going to take that plant and build electric trucks. And this truck was about the size of a mid-size truck, of which we have, I think, like 100 or something in our fleet. And lots of people would have them as a personal vehicle, but lots of businesses. And this was exciting to be at our Kent facility. I'm actually standing right behind the tailgate of the truck in the picture on the right. And I see now that I look really hunched over and I need to be doing more yoga, which would mean really any yoga actually being more. But at any rate, it was a great event, and we got to learn about the future of electric transportation from these folks building a work-oriented truck. But we also had in a number of the municipalities from around the area, including some of our colleagues from other utilities and the cities, because we're all thinking about, hey, this could be a really big step forward. And in many cases, fleets who go out could be some of the first to move into this area because some of the range anxiety that we talk about with electric cars, if you're a fleet, you don't have to worry about it. You charge up overnight at base, you go and you do whatever the crew does that day, and it's usually pretty defined, and then you charge up again. And that may be one of the ways that transportation really moves to electric. Some of the fastest areas are going to be those return to base fleets. And we're already hearing about Amazon and others moving their trucks. And just kind of coincidentally, we'll be talking about clean energy on our side as an electric and gas utility, but almost half the state's emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, are from transportation. So making progress there is really huge. Our crews have had some hybrid electric bucket trucks for several years. And just by the way, one of the things they like is when they're up in that bucket and it's going up and the truck is on battery mode, it's quiet. So if you're up in the bucket and you're working and there's a colleague down below, you're not shouting over a diesel engine. It's nice and quiet. And it's kind of a funny little side benefit that our crews have liked about moving to some of these hybrid electric bucket trucks over the years. So transportation, and as we get into questions and things, we can certainly talk more about that. And honestly, jump in anytime if you have one. We're a friendly group, so if you have a question, that'd be great. And then my colleagues from PSC like Matt can correct whatever answers I give. COVID, boy, what a year. What a year for everybody. Our region was one of the first in the country, of course, to be impacted. And I'm sure we all kind of felt that in our roles and had friends across the country or colleagues in our industries or whatever reaching out to us as events were unfolding at the end of February, early March of last year. And for us, that played out in a couple of ways. As the slide says, on March 1st, Sunday, we had our first corporate crisis management team meeting. And I would say as a company, in some ways, being a first responder company, that maybe gave us a little bit of an advantage in terms of mobilizing because it would be like a storm. We have a very defined way of reacting if there's a storm or some other emergency where we get together, we have a conference bridge, we have an order of how those meetings go. We kind of do that drill a lot. So that helped prepare us for this mode. And we had actually done a corporate exercise about 2, maybe 3 years ago on what do we do if there's a pandemic. So at least we had some of that. I will tell you though, like everybody, boy, did we learn a lot. So it mentions March 1st, we opened our corporate crisis management team. That was a phone bridge on a Sunday. And then the next day on a Monday, we held a meeting that when I look at a picture I took at that meeting, I realized how dumb we were. We decided that what we should do to plan for the pandemic is all get into a room together and have a meeting. We all had a lot to learn. And I think about that now I think our region was very active in moving forward. I appreciate what our government agencies, our cities, our counties all did. But at the same time, we were all pretty unaware, I think, as March broke. But since then, we have been in remote work for people like me and Matt and others who can work remotely. And we did that for a couple of reasons. We have many employees, field crew employees, generation plant employees, those who work in our substations, they can't really work remote. Now, in some cases, they're dispatching from home. They're taking their vehicles home and then going back out in the field. In some cases, we're really trying to make sure that if they're in a facility where you need to work in that facility, a warehouse or someplace that has physical equipment that needs to go out, everybody else like me who doesn't need to be there isn't going to be there. So it was really a case of if you could work remotely, stay home and do it. And if you're an employee who's in one of those facilities, we want to make sure that if you were a person who had a job that had to be there, you wouldn't have other people there who didn't need to be there. And I think it's worked out well in terms of just managing our health, our ability to respond to emergencies for the community, as well as just do the right thing as we've all tried to partner and that idea of, sticking together by staying apart here over this last year or so. For our customers, of course, this was an upheaval for everyone in different ways, whether it was personal or perhaps in many cases financial for people who lost jobs. And I'm proud to say we moved quickly and in many cases with great partnership with agencies like the State Utility and Transportation Commission that regulates us. We moved voluntarily to end disconnections, which we still have not resumed. That will resume later in summer in coordination with the state. And then really working well to develop some new programs in the form of assistance. The traditional bill assistance programs have really focused on people who are lower income, which obviously makes sense. What we had to focus on, though, that was different here was to continue that aid, certainly, but also people who've been doing fine, people who've been earning a pretty good paycheck, but not when their business closed, not when their restaurant closed, not when the hotel they worked at closed, not when the retail closed, whatever it would be. So we developed a program to help people who were maybe doing fine generally until the pandemic, but then all of a sudden they were out of work and they wouldn't have qualified for the traditional programs that were based on your previous year's income. So we had to have a program that could step in and help people who were newly unemployed. And we called that our Crisis Affected Customer Assistance Program, KCAP. Never have I learned so many acronyms as working at the utility, but I'm proud of what it did. And what I'm really more excited about is that program is now into another phase this year with 3 times the available aid, which is really great. And then our PSE Foundation and our employees really stepping up to give in places that help the food drives and the other efforts that were done when people, especially last spring, were really hurting. And it's good to see things are better now, but certainly not where we all want them to be. Next, we'll talk a bit more about the energy world. And we decided that like many, when the pandemic first really broke last year, to some degree, I think we all thought, hey, we have to focus on that at the moment. And that was true. But as the year went on, it really became clear that we as a company and our customers and our employees wanted to see progress keep moving forward. And in some cases, it was a chance, like I see the phrase occasionally, to build back better and to say, look, we've had a really disruptive moment. What could we do now to move forward so that we all kind of come back into the normal world? We can push ahead and not go back to where we were, but push ahead into something new. And so for us, it was this idea, a commitment to let's be a beyond net zero carbon company by 2045. And what does that mean? Well, it's essentially trying to find ways to decarbonize or get the carbon emissions out of our electricity and out of our natural gas system so that we can reduce the greenhouse gases from homes and buildings and also transportation around the area. And the beyond comes from the ability to use carbon offsets and other things, which are sort of the idea of if you have emissions from something, could you do things like have more forests, which might help take some of that carbon out of the air? And it was a bold choice for us. And in some cases, when we talked about it, and it was our CEO, Mary Kipp, who said, let's take this really far. In fact, uncomfortably far. And I think it was a wonderful and bold choice, but it forced us as what I would call a very linear company. We have lots of engineers at our company. I appreciate what they do, and I'm glad we have them because they don't let people like me actually design the equipment because I'm not an engineer. But our engineers are very precise and they're very linear, very one piece after the other. And part of the thing that was challenging to our engineers and that mindset, because we understand that what we do is critical. We saw in a place like, say, Texas or California over the last year or two, what happens when energy planning goes wrong. So knowing that, we figured, okay, how can we come up with some pathways to get to this beyond net zero? But we had to get over some of our kind of linear sense of how things move and say, you know what, we have a goal. It's an aspirational goal. We don't know exactly how we'll get there, but we do have kind of 3 big stripes that I can lay out about how we will get there. First is our own operations and electric supply. The idea that we would achieve what we're talking about our community achieving. And something like that Lordstown truck is a good example. It's great if we're cleaning up the electric supply to everyone, but we probably shouldn't be driving around in trucks that pollute if we are. So what can we do on our own end as a company? And I really should pause too to compliment what our state legislature, what our state governor has done over the last couple of years. When I started at PSE in 2008, it was just after a law that was passed in 2006, which set a target that at the time was pretty audacious. It said that we'd have 15% renewable energy for new sources, not counting the hydro we had, but 15% renewable energy by 2020. And I will tell you, when I would talk to groups in 2008, and I kind of think I talked to the Kent Chamber then as well. And if I use any of the same jokes and you were there then, I try to freshen it up. But when I was talking about that in 2008, 15% was like, wow, that's a huge goal. Can we really get there? Well, now here we are, we're talking about goals that are much greater than that and really a leadership position for the nation. And I think that's great. It isn't just about electricity though. Natural gas is key. For example, we serve the city of Seattle. City of Seattle, we serve natural gas. On a cold day, natural gas is 2/3 of the energy used in the city of Seattle. It's a big, big factor, heating our homes, fueling businesses, doing a lot of things in the area. But we think we can also help natural gas be a fuel that drives progress around climate. We can do that in a couple of ways. One, with efficiency, helping people use less. that kilowatt or therm, a therm is the measure for gas, that kilowatt or therm you don't use is the greenest one. So what can we do there? The other is, what can we do to change what's in that pipe? Because the piping, the natural gas infrastructure is incredibly valuable. But just like we're going to change the electrons coming down the wire from the coal that's being phased out to something cleaner, can we change what's in the pipe as well? And a couple places where that's happening is the ability to capture renewable natural gas from things like methane. And that reminded me of probably in the 70s or 80s, I felt like whenever I was watching TV news to see my dad, I'd see a story about the Kent Midway landfill. Well, if you were going to build a landfill like that today, you'd realize that, hey, that methane that comes from things decomposing, we could put that in the pipes. And so we could take waste from things like wastewater treatment plants or a landfill or anything else, that methane that's going to be emitted, going to go into the atmosphere, let's take it, put it into the natural gas system, because natural gas is methane, and then we could take something that would be waste and get something valuable out of it. Also, can we put in hydrogen? And you can make hydrogen when the wind is blowing, like here I'm at, this is our Wild Horse Wind Farm in Ellensburg area. When the wind is blowing, but people aren't using electricity, you could take that electricity and actually make hydrogen. You could put that into the gas system too. And that's a way to store renewable energy like wind at a time when maybe it's really windy, but it's night and people aren't using the power. You can make it hydrogen and store it that way. And then our ability to do things in that transportation space, helping people convert to electric vehicles and fleets, and then also LNG, which is liquefied natural gas. You take natural gas, you cool it, and then you can use it for some of the big uses, bigger trucks, shipping, and others, which some things are converting to battery today, like cars and light trucks. Bigger vehicles, that could be a couple decades away. So those are kind of our pathways. And again, for us, we had to kind of get over something that is traditional utility mentality, which is how exactly will we get there? We understand when we're delivering power to your house, we have to know exactly how it's going to get there, because if there's an interruption, your lights go out. As we're thinking about something 10, 20 years down the line, we have to be a little bit more aspirational and focus in some ways more on the goal and not worry so much about the how to get there today. Because as we've all learned in technology, especially in our area, the last 20 or 30 years, a lot of things will change, but let's keep our eye on where things can go. And then the last piece here I wanted to talk a bit about was, boy, we need you. One of the things that we know in all this is, as we're going to work to say, put that renewable natural gas in the gas system, or help you connect a car charger at home, or put that cleaner power down the wire like we have now in Washington. You may have to take actions at home or at your business. And there's where I really think the partnership is great, and particularly our partnership with many local governments like the city of Kent. We've had a lot of great work from Mayor Ralph and others at the city staff helping us as customers are doing things like new construction at their building or their business. Well, we can help with energy efficiency rebates so that that new facility, that new restaurant has really efficient equipment. And even at home, all those rebates and things, as you're looking, maybe you move, maybe you're just wanting to lower the energy bill. I think it's exciting that our customers, by and large in Washington, feel pretty environmentally sensitive. They also want to take action. And it's great that they do, because we can only do so much as the utility. It's that partnership. And I think that partnership is one of the reasons I love getting to speak with a group like this, because I would say that if you're a small business, some kind of different business, you're thinking, well, I bet that works for like Boeing, a big guy down the road. I would guess no matter what you're doing, there's probably something our energy advisors can help your business do as well, or at home too. So that's kind of the overall deal, but I'd love to get into conversation and hear what you're thinking. I'll still take weather questions. I'm as accurate as I've ever been, which doesn't say a whole lot, but your questions about energy and everything else would be awesome.
Well, we have a few questions in the chat, if no one online has any questions. What can consumers do to help us all become beyond net zero carbon?
There are a couple of things that are really important. One is simply around the house. You'd be surprised actually how much energy all those little things that are plugged in actually use. And you sort of think, well, how much could it be? We actually estimate, this is pretty amazing, that about 10% of the average home's energy use is just what they call energy vampires. So things that are plugged in that you're not actually using at the time. So if you have something like, I don't know, playroom and your kids are now really kind of at high school or gone, but you've left that TV plugged in there forever, that's actually using energy. And the same thing, you plug your phone charger into the wall, you take your phone out, the charger actually still draws a little bit of energy. So those things, it's kind of amazing. If you actually went around the house and found those things, and I did that a few years ago with the help of a little gizmo from our energy efficiency group, it was true. And they weren't much. It was 10 watts, 15 watts, but it'd be sort of like if you left a little night light everywhere in your house, in every room, it's 10%. So there's an easy thing where you say, wow, I could actually have an impact like that. Pretty low effort if it's stuff you're not using ever at all. And then a little bit more big scale is, if you're moving, if you're remodeling, start with that call to our energy advisors. They aren't selling you anything. It's just information. So I think that's great. And then we have a list of trusted contractors that they can refer you to. And I'm not a particularly handy person. So when I think about doing something at home, I always feel kind of anxious about who do I call for that thing. They can do that. And last, especially if you've moved into a new place or you're thinking about doing something, is actually a home energy audit that we help support. We'll come in and they will do, you'll use an infrared camera to see where you're losing heat. They will do a blower door test to see like, okay, where are the leaks in your house? And then give you a series of recommendations. And you can take those recommendations if you're beginning to do some serious work and really go, okay, this is where I'm going to get some bang for my buck. And I appreciate that because the system approach to getting it right is a big deal. But again, go around, unplug that stuff you're not using. It actually could knock 10% off.
Thank you. And we have a few more. How is the Wild Horse Wind Farm doing? Is it expanding? And how much power is PSE generating with the wind?
Excellent question. My first role when I came to PSE was around the expansion of the Wild Horse Wind Farm, which I am standing in front of. This is like my old job when I do this. I'm standing in front of it right. And you got to be able to go both hands, by the way, and point. If you ever have planning on a career in television meteorology, you got to go to the left and the right in front of the green wall. My first job was actually to help expand Wild Horse from 127 turbines to 149, which is what it is now. It is just east of Ellensburg on I-90, and we're going to be actually back open again, a little bit modified, but open again this summer post-COVID, which is great. It really is something you get to learn about energy if you come by and visit, see the turbines and all of that. Not expanding further than that right now, but it has cousins in our fleet. We also have Hopkins Ridge, which is near Dayton. If you know Eastern Washington, come on the road to Pullman. We have cougars in the house. They probably know Pullman in that area, Dayton in that area. And then a little bit further east of Dayton, Pomeroy's, where we have the Lower Snake River Wind Farm. And combined, those are about 800 megawatts. Each megawatt serves something like 1,000 homes of wind. So pretty good amount of wind power, about 80,000 homes, if I did the math correctly. And we're actually the 5th largest utility owner and operator of wind power in the country. And there's going to be a lot more. Thanks to the state's Clean Energy Transformation Act, which was passed in 2019, we have targets to be in fact 80% clean by 2030 and 100% carbon free by 2045. We'll be doing more. And I think that's an awesome thing for our state. If you were reading the Seattle Times the other day, you can also see some stories where people who live in Eastern Washington are saying, well, we got to be thoughtful about how all this is cited. And I think we do. But it's exciting to see that, yeah, it really works. It brings jobs to a lot of the smaller towns in Eastern Washington. And especially as you have more wind power, it actually balances out the fact that the wind doesn't always blow in any one spot. Well, if you're in more spots, it kind of increases the chance that it's blowing somewhere and kind of levelizes some of that output from the wind farms.
Do you think we will ever be able to harness the energy of the ocean tides? And if so, when and how?
That's a very exciting subject. And certainly for us, the long coast, it makes sense. A couple of different thins have been tried. Snohomish Public Utility District, Everett and vicinity, obviously in Snohomish, probably 10 years or so ago was looking at some tidal power around Whidbey Island, kind of off Snohomish County, did some studies about how that might work. There's also an increasing amount of offshore wind power now being built in the East Coast and off the North Sea in Europe. And that would be a way to use the ocean in effect as well, because the wind you've been to the coast, every town on the coast has a kite flying festival, right? And for good reason. There's a lot of wind on the coast. Specifically though, to the waves, it's been fairly incremental in terms of how it's been developed. I know there are a couple projects, I believe Scotland, other areas, the UK, the North Sea, that area. And essentially you could do it in a couple ways. You could put wind turbines up that float, and then wave power, specifically buoys that move up and down, and also sort of long kind of chain of, I don't know, almost think of a gigantic like pool noodle that floats. And as that moves up and down, that can actually help create electricity. All that I think is very exciting. The only piece of that I think is challenging is cost. Just because like today with a wind farm on land, our crews can get out there in a truck when it needs service, as opposed to going out in a boat. So, maintenance and things like that. And then the other is just simply, no matter where you go, you do have an environmental impact. And that's certainly been the push from people with some of the wind farms, other things proposed for the East Coast. And kind of gets back to that piece around what can I do at home? Use less. And use less in business. That's the lowest impact piece, and typically dollar for dollar, that is the best for the environment, and then also the least footprint we have to contend with.
We have some more questions coming in. Recently on my PSE bill, I got an insert that mentioned that some gas lines had been inadvertently installed through sewer lines. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. That's a phenomenon called cross-bore. And I am really glad that we talk about that with our customers and do it. And again, it was kind of a cultural moment for us about 6-7 years ago. Became really aware of the problem. And it's from a couple things. Sewer lines are not locatable. So you think about the call 811. Everybody should be familiar with that. That's the call before you dig is 811. And does anybody know the call after you dig number? That's 911. You do not want to call that number. Thank you very much. I'll be here all week. 811 is the call before you dig, and know that number. It's free. You call 5 business days before you are going to do any digging. And even if you're a gardener, you're going to do a DIY project at home, it even applies if you're hand digging at home, because power lines, gas lines, your cable TV, your water line, all can be as close as 2 feet to the surface. And it's 2 feet sometimes. After, though, it's buried, a builder may move the dirt a little bit more, or maybe somebody came along and did some landscaping. So maybe that 2 feet, if your home is older, shortens up. So 811, free call 5 days before you do work. Really important heading into summer. Back to the cross-bore. The sewer lines are not, they don't have a tracer in them. So the metal detector deal that like the 811 people use can't find them. They're not also always marked in those as-built plans. What happens then is if gas is added after construction, we now have horizontal drilling technology, probably been around 20-30 years. But if it's an older sewer line and we're putting in a new gas line, that horizontal drilling basically snakes, goes underground, and it could actually hit that sewer line. That's a bad deal. So if you have a clog, toilet or other things backed up, you're not sure what's going on with that, a plumber, we've done a lot of education with plumbers, and also the Home Depots and Lowe's and all that, as people rent some of the equipment to deal with those problems, to know that that clog could actually be a sewer line that is intercepted by a gas line. Not a good thing. So what we do free is we come out and actually put a video camera down that line, take a look, see what's there, and maybe it's tree roots or something else. We say, no worries, rooter guy, go to it. But if we see it is a gas line, we'll stop, we'll fix that problem, then we'll work on the clear. So that's what that is, the cross bores. And again, always a great idea. if you're going to be doing some heavy duty work at home, whatever that might be, even 2 feet with a hand shovel, call before you dig 811.
Thank you. Here's a really fun question. You mentioned JP Patches. Didn't he play a famous prank on your dad on live TV at one time? And they've sent in a clip.
Oh, it's probably it may be the CLTV blooper of all time. And I don't know if you have a way to show it or whatever, but Google JP Patches and Harry Wappler, and you will see my dad's doing the weather. And my dad always enjoyed a good laugh, but I thought he was fairly funny. But he did take his little bit fairly seriously. And while he laughed at the time, it was not a subject years later that I necessarily brought up at the dinner table. But at any rate, he's up doing the weather. And this was back when the temperatures and things were magnetic numbers on a wall. And so JP Patches, who, if you lived in the area, you remember him, he was fantastic, super funny guy, along with his sidekick, Bob Newman, who played Gertrude and all these other, there we go. It's now in there, courtesy of I Love Kent. JP kind of snuck onto the set in his clown outfit, and my dad says, "Oh, here comes a real weather expert." And he stands out of the way, and JP says hi, and I think my dad just thinks he's going to keep on going. Oh no, he hits the plywood wall that has the magnetic numbers on them. Down they go to the ground, and my dad's reaction is priceless. So look it up. I think it's pretty funny. And you know, the nicest thing to me over the years, from having had people who remember that clip or anything else, is our community is awful big. There's millions and millions of people. The nicest thing to me about having people remember my dad, or even if they saw me or anything like that, is they stop and they tell you about, hey, I remember that storm and your dad said this. And what my family did was, and they start telling you a story about their own life, which is just an awesome way to have like kind of neighbors everywhere you go. But I love that clip on Google. It is pretty darn funny. My dad passed 10 years or so ago. He might laugh about that clip now. I'm not really sure.
That's a great story. Let's see if we have anybody online have any questions.
Oh, thank you. I love Representative Orwell's suggestion. Yes, come to the license plate hearing for the Patches plate. I will come.
Let's see. Wondering if you have any thoughts or observations on futuristic travel options like Hyperloop.
Well, one thing to be interesting about that, and I think in any of our future pieces, and the Hyperloop is the idea of like a electromagnetic levitation train, which would require a tremendous amount of electricity. I think it'd be sort of like if we all got into an MRI machine and it zipped us to Los Angeles. All those things would require a tremendous amount of electricity. And one of the interesting things in our region is so much has been done with technology over the last 20 or 30 years, yet all of that tech that we love requires electricity. And in many cases, it's more efficient, like the little laptop I'm on now, and that probably a lot of people are on. It's more efficient than the big box computer and the giant monitor we all had in 1995. But our area is growing, and many of the future solutions use electricity. The other I was reading about today, electric cars. I think they could be really great. And as kind of a car guy, I'm excited about that idea of new cars that are different and no tailpipe emissions. But I was reading about today the lithium that goes into the batteries and the mining, and what does that all mean? And I think while many new technologies have fantastic potential, I think it's always a case of us all being kind of collectively understanding everything has an impact. And at some level, it's a trade-off in that impact. So choosing wisely, and maybe for all of us, just choosing a little less new, maybe that's the thing to think about too. That's not quite as exciting as a Hyperloop, but may have higher impact.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions unless there's any out there of our group.
I'll ask myself one and see if I can stump myself, but I'm asking because it's a common question, which is, hey, speaking of the electric, is the grid ready for electric cars? Like, do we have enough power? We do. So we have enough energy out there for the electric cars, but the local infrastructure will continue to need work. just to be able to serve it. So if you imagine a cul-de-sac and everybody comes home and plugs in their car, okay, maybe that transformer that serves the cul-de-sac needs to be upgraded. The good news there is we're doing that grid modernization, or grid mod as we call it. It will help us with things like more electric heat pumps. It will help us with things like more electric cars. It will also help us have more reliability. And in many cases, some of that technology that goes into the grid can help provide you with more information. So maybe you can make better choices about your energy use, like smart chargers that say, yeah, I'm not going to go anywhere tomorrow till 10 o'clock in the morning. My car can charge at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, that's great. We push some of that charging in the middle of the night, then maybe we don't have to build as much grid to deliver the energy, or maybe we don't have to build as many power plants. So that combination of grid hardening, but also just being smart with our knowledge and using more data can help us minimize what we build too. So kind of a piece that people often ask is the grid ready for electric cars? Not quite, almost. And the good news is I think there's a lot we can do about it.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Andy, for a great presentation. We appreciate all the time you spent today with us.
Absolutely. And thank you all. And I really do. I think we've all gotten a lot out of this world where it's been cool that we can do a lot of the stuff very efficiently, but love to come back when you're all back and we're all back and feeling good about that. And yes, I will stop at the Caveman, might even stop at the Unlimited Hydroplane Museum, another high point in Kent to me. But thank you all so much. I appreciate having the time and to get to share with you today.
I also wanted to thank everyone for attending today. This was streamed live via South King Media. I Love Kent, and you can find it later on our YouTube channel to view at any time. I wanted to acknowledge one more time our 2021 Luncheon sponsor, Abyssinia Hair and Beauty, for all of their support for the Chamber of Commerce, and also our gold, silver, bronze, and copper sponsors. A huge shout out to Araya in the background for making all the magic happen today behind the scenes. We appreciate you. And before we go, I'd like to tell you about a couple upcoming events. Every month on the last Friday of the month is Your Chamber, Your Vision. It's an opportunity to call in and let us know what we can do for you, do for your business or ideas you might have. So we'd love to hear from you the last Friday of each month. We also have several workshops coming up, managing and maintaining employees put on by BBSI. And next month's membership luncheon will be a City of Kent legislative update. And next month, again, you'll be given an opportunity to purchase lunch and have lunch on your Zoom call, and hopefully before long, too much longer, we'll be able to have a chamber luncheon in person, and Andy will invite you in to order barbecue. Remember that your Kent Chamber is here to serve you, and please reach out if you need anything. Following this presentation, you'll get a short, just 2-question survey. We'd love to hear your input on things we can do better and things you might want to hear about at future chamber luncheons. So everybody, have a great day, and thank you for attending today.
Thanks, Julia.